So for dinner tonight, I'm going to be making my take on the New York Times recipe for spicy black bean soup. I've never tried this before, so I'm not sure exactly how it's gonna be. The comments were mixed. Some people loved it. Some people said they were worried they were gonna have to throw it away because it was gross. But either way, it seems like a recipe that really depends on the quality of the ingredients you got, because it's super simple and it's supposed to be really easy. So I feel like the key is starting with good ingredients. So I want to run through the ingredients I got for this with you before we get started. I am lucky enough, so blessed, to live in a predominantly Mexican neighborhood, so I went to my local tortilleria and they had basically everything I needed for this recipe. But that doesn't mean you can't find comparable stuff at any grocery store. All the ingredients are pretty simple. I just went and got them from a fun store near me. And there's a reason for that. The main reason is because one of the main components of this soup is 3.5 cups of salsa verde. So the soup is gonna rely heavily on the flavor of the salsa verde. And the tortilleria happens to make their own salsa verde in-house. This is it. It's gorgeous. I've had it before. It's delicious. This might be more than 3.5 cups. I have no idea. And of course, for a black bean soup, you need a ton of black beans. So the tortilleria also had this giant can. Whoa. Yeah, perfect. This is the perfect opportunity. This really scratches a very particular itch for me. I feel safe having this amount of beans in my hand.
Gets me hot.
It's 46 ounces, and since 4 15-ounce cans is 60 ounces total, math, I've got a baby can as well. And then the recipe calls for 8 ounces of chopped green chilies in a can. This isn't exactly that. I got 13.13 ounces of sliced green pickled jalapeno peppers in a can. And I'll probably just add this whole thing because if you've seen any of my videos, or if you haven't, I'll tell you now, I like some heat. And then I just got a few other things from the tortilleria. These are pretty much all for toppings. I got some queso fresco. I got a jalapeno that I'm going to chop up and probably also put on top as a little garnish, little spicy garnish. You could skip this if you're not a spicy person. I still respect you. And this is fun. I also got these tortilla strips that were made by the tortilleria. Made in-house, as they say. Those are all the ingredients I got from the tortilleria. You also need a couple other things for this soup. The roast. Unsweetened cocoa powder, garlic powder, cumin, and I also got an avocado. Actually, I just had this on hand, but I'll probably use it as a topping as well. Let's get started. Okay, one last thing I need to address before we begin. I'm going to be cooking this soup in this pot, this lovely Dutch oven that I have, and the internet hates this pot. Everybody's really mad about it. They think it's super gross and stained. It's clean. It's clean, people. This is just what a well-loved pot looks like. And you know what? Everything I make in here tastes delicious. The first thing we're going to do is dump all of our black beans into the pot. Normally I would rinse and drain the beans, but it seems that the consensus in the comments on the recipe is that we're leaving the bean juice in. So that's what I'm gonna do, even though the recipe does not specify. Next, let's add the 3.5 cups of salsa verde. I'm curious to see how much each one of these tubs is. That's 1 cup. Okay, each tub is just under 2 cups. I'm just gonna dump a whole other tub in there. Let's live a little. Now the sliced green pickled jalapeno peppers. Oh, you hate to see that. Fun surprise, there's spicy carrots in here. I love a spicy carrot. And I'm just gonna dump this whole can in there. Now we need 2 tablespoons of the unsweetened cocoa powder. The recipe calls for 2 teaspoons of cumin, but I'm gonna add a tablespoon. And then same thing with the garlic powder. It calls for 2 teaspoons. I'm gonna add just under a tablespoon. Now we're going to give this a stir and bring it to a boil over high heat. And if you're feeling concerned at this time about the huge chunks of jalapenos and carrots and the cocoa powder clumps that are in the soup, fear not. We're going to use an immersion blender in a little bit to smooth things out. If you don't have an immersion blender, you could also use a potato masher. Once the soup gets up to a boil, we're going to cover it, reduce the heat to medium, and let it simmer for 7 to 10 minutes, stirring occasionally, until the beans are soft, everything's soft, and easily mashable. In the meantime, I'm going to wash, carefully de-seed, using this handy little tool, And then thinly slice the jalapeno. Let's check on the soup and give it a stir. Whoa, 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 whoa. I'm gonna let it cook uncovered for the last few minutes. I'm also going to slice up the avocado right now. I learned this method of slicing an avocado from my how to make avocado toast exactly like Gordon Ramsay video. Okay, the soup's been cooking for about 15 minutes. I think we're ready to immersion blend. You can blend this up as much or as little as you want. It's really just about getting that consistency that you like. I think I'm gonna try to do about half. So it's a little bit thicker, but there's still just some chunks in there. We'll see. Whoa. Once I get in there with the blender, it could get nuts. And then we're ready to eat it, and I'm so excited. On a personal note, I got a new ladle for Christmas, and this is the first time I'm gonna use it, so big day for me. You guys, I'm really excited. I think it can only be described as a flavor explosion. It's exploding with flavor, due almost entirely to the delicious salsa verde that the tortilleria makes. I can't stress enough, if you make this recipe, I think you really just need to use a good salsa verde, and then you're set. Also, I should note that the recipe called for like half cup of cilantro, and I just skipped that entirely, because I don't really like cilantro. Some people don't. I fall into that category. But if you wanted to add cilantro, you could stir it in at the very end. I'm loving this. And this is a fun recipe because you get to put your own little spin on it. That's the fun of cooking. Take a risk. You don't have to follow recipes exactly. Just make it the way you want to eat it because you're the one who's gonna eat it.